Hey everyone, tonight we're stepping into the shadows, to a time of plagues, punishments and pottage. We're uncovering what life was truly like in the Middle Ages. Forget the castles and chivalry sold to you by Hollywood. The truth, you probably wouldn't last a single day. Before we begin, if you're enjoying this journey, please consider liking and subscribing. And do let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see this global community. Now, dim the lights, settle in, and let's begin. Congratulations! You've just woken up in the year 1325. The good news, you're alive. The bad news? So are the fleas. Your bed is a half-rotted straw mattress, stuffed with bugs and hay. It smells like a barn floor, because 3 months ago it was. There's no memory foam, no pillows. Just a wool blanket, unwashed since last winter, now heavy with grime. You blink awake to the clang of a distant church bell. The medieval alarm clock, louder and infinitely less merciful. Your home is a wooden hut, one room, no window. A charming, open concept where your family, your livestock and every domestic insect share the same space. The smell, oh, it's a symphony. A subtle blend of stale beer, human sweat, goat, and something you pray isn't mould. But in your soul you know it is. Scented candles haven't been invented. And even if they had, they'd just melt into your dirt floor. You try to stretch. Immediate regret. The air is freezing, your joints ache. You're 22 years old, which in medieval terms is middle-aged. Your spine creaks like an old door, your knees sound like a bag of rock. Getting out of bed is a gamble. The floor is either wet from last night's rain, leaking through the thatched roof, or crusty from something your neighbour's chicken did. Either way, your bare feet are now part of the local ecosystem. And privacy? What's that? Your entire family, and maybe a random cousin who never left, are waking up right beside you. No bedrooms, no curtains, no me time. Just communal everything. Welcome to morning in medieval Europe. You're never truly alone, because parasites, rodents, and 8 other people are always with you. And this is just how your day starts. It only gets worse from here. So you've crawled out of your medieval haystack of horrors. Congratulations. Now nature calls, and it's not calling politely, it's screaming. Here's where you start missing the modern bathroom. There is no toilet, no seat. No paper. No flush, not even a resentful plunger in the corner. In the 14th century, relieving yourself is an adventure, a social experiment, and often a small public event. If you're a peasant, your bathroom is likely a wooden bucket behind the house, already full because Uncle Wolfston had a rough night. The smell is biblical, you do your business, and then, here's the kicker, you toss it into the street. Yes, the street, you're supposed to shout a gardeloo. Old French for A-watch out below. Though frankly, no one ever moves fast enough. The streets in medieval towns are open sewers, a charming river of human waste, animal droppings, and mystery liquids you'd rather not examine. If you're lucky enough to have public latrines, congratulations. Congratulations. You get to sit shoulder to shoulder with strangers. Privacy is a myth, ventilation is a cruel joke, and toilet paper, never heard of it. Most people wipe with straw, leaves, rags, moss, or if feeling indulgent, a scrap of wall, sometimes nothing at all. Which might explain why handshakes weren't popular yet. And if you're in a castle, surely it's better. Well, you might have a garderobe, a hole in the wall that drops directly into the moat. A great idea, except your enemies know this. Yes, attackers sometimes climbed in through the waste chute. Talk about entering through the back door. So, whether farmer or baron, medieval toileting is a humiliation ritual. It's cold, public, dangerous, and never not disgusting. One slip on a wet stone path, and you're face first in humanity's leftovers. And you still haven't brushed your teeth. But we'll get to that. You survived the toilet. You deserve a reward, right? Maybe a nice breakfast. Something warm, delicious, comforting. Welcome to your daily ration of pottage. Pottage is a thick, gloopy stew made of whatever you can find. Grains, root vegetables, maybe a few beans if you're lucky. It's been simmering in the same pot for days, sometimes weeks. New ingredients are just dumped on top of the old. It's less a recipe, more an ongoing edible experiment. On the side, a hunk of bread so hard it could deflect arrows. It's made from coarse rye or barley, often bulked up with sawdust, ground acorns or other creative ingredients. Wheat is a rich man's fantasy. This loaf is not your friend. You don't slice it. You negotiate with it. What about drinks? You're not sipping orange juice. You're drinking beer. Yes, beer. At 6 a.m. Why? Because the water is teeming with parasites. So you start your day with weak ale. Low alcohol, high survivability. Kids drink it too. No one's happy about it, but at least it won't kill you immediately. Want some meat or cheese? Dream on. That's for Sundays and saints' feast days, and only if your lord is feeling generous. Most peasants don't eat meat more than a few times a year. As for fresh fruit, only when it's in season. Add these. And don't even think about spices unless you're royalty. A pinch of pepper costs more than your monthly wages. Salt is valuable enough to be locked away. So you chew your gritty bread, gulp your medieval beer, and try not to think about the rat that may have nibbled your porridge in the night. Breakfast doesn't energize you. It just happens to you. And now that you're properly underfed, it's time to work like your life depends on it. Because it absolutely does. So you've eaten your sad medieval breakfast. Now it's time to get dressed. Not that it'll help. Your wardrobe consists of exactly one outfit. 1. It's a rough wool tunic or linen shift you've worn every day for months, possibly years. There's no seasonal fashion. There's just wear this until it disintegrates. Underwear is optional. If you're lucky, maybe a linen under tunic. If you're not, well, you're going commando under layers of scratchy, sweaty wool. There's also no washing machine. No soap, so your clothes are stained, stiff, and scented like a compost pile, left to marinate in a pigsty. Washing them is a day's labour, and don't get me started on shoes. If you own any, they're untreated leather, barely stitched together. Most peasants just go barefoot through mud, through dung, through medieval landmines, sharp rocks and disease puddles. All this means one thing: your skin hates you. You itch constantly. Fleas and bedbugs live rent-free on your body. Everyone has them. Nobles, monks, children, you're all walking insect farms. You'll be scratching your armpit with a wooden spoon while chatting with a local priest. And no one will even bat an eye. Your skin is raw, your scalp, a battlefield. And if you develop a rash, well, too bad. There's no dermatologist. You just keep on suffering, now that you're dressed in misery. It's time to flash that morning smile. Except you don't. Because in the Middle Ages, smiling is a dangerous game. Not emotionally. Dentally, there's no toothbrush. No toothpaste, no floss. The concept of oral hygiene is about as popular as bathing, which is to say not very. By the time you hit your mid-20s, your smile looks like something from a haunted crypt. Cavities are rampant, gums are swollen. Sugar is becoming more common among the rich, so if you're a noble, congratulations, you get to rot your teeth faster. If you're poor, you'll do it slowly with gritty porridge and hard bread. Toothaches, get used to them. The kind of pain that makes you consider praying, drinking, or pulling the tooth out yourself with pliers. And that's not a joke. That was the actual treatment. The barber surgeon, the same guy who cuts your hair, will do it by candlelight with an iron hook and zero anesthesia. An infected tooth could easily turn into sepsis and kill you. That's right. A toothache could be your funeral in the 1300s. And kissing? Good luck. Halitosis is everywhere. In short, your mouth is a battlefield. And it's losing the war. Now that your teeth are throbbing, let's head outside. Your real job is just beginning. Time to head to work. Except there's no office, no desk, no coffee break, and no chance of promotion. Your job, if you're like 90% of the population, is simple. Don't die while labouring for someone else's comfort. You're a peasant. Congratulations. That means you work the land that belongs to a lord who probably doesn't know your name. You rise with the sun and stop only when it disappears. Your tools, a wooden hoe, a rusty sickle, and whatever bones are still intact in your body. There's no weekend. There's no clocking out. There's only sunrise to sunset 6 days a week. Sunday is off, only if you're not harvesting, fighting off raiders, or praying for your infected toe to stop turning black. The work is brutal. Fields are ploughed by hand or with oxen. You dig, sow weed and carry water until your spine resembles the letter S. No one cares if you're tired. No one's asking about your mental health. If you're a woman, surprise, you don't just do field work. You also care for children, clean, cook, spin wool, feed animals, and pretend your husband's lice aren't migrating to your side of the bed. Children start helping around age 5. No school, no toys, just a tiny wooden rake and a dream of one day not dying of the flu. If you're a blacksmith, a tanner, a cooper, great. You still work with fire, chemicals, or animal guts all day in poorly ventilated sheds. The pay? Basically survival. Break a bone? Too bad. Get a fever? Drink some warm ale and keep going. You can't afford to stop. If you don't work, you don't eat. And if you don't eat, medieval Europe has a solution. It's called being replaced. So you grip your shovel, ignore the blisters, and keep digging. Because in the Middle Ages, your job isn't a career. It's a slow-motion endurance test. Now that your back is on fire from labour, let's talk about the weather. Because here, temperature is less about seasons, more about ongoing punishment from the sky. Let's start with winter. There's no insulation, no central heating, just wooden walls with gaps you could throw a chicken through. Windows are covered with cloth, not glass. The fire in the hearth is nice in theory, but you don't have enough firewood. Wood is expensive, and gathering it from the Lord's forest can be illegal. Yes, you can be executed for picking up the wrong stick. You bundle up in your one damp wool tunic, huddle near dying embers, and still wake up with your nose frozen. Frostbite isn't diagnosed, it's just called bad luck. Now fast forward to summer. Sounds better, right? Wrong. In summer, your home turns into a clay oven. There's no fan, no cross breeze, and absolutely no deodorant. You sweat through your layers but can't remove them. Too scandalous, and it invites sunburn and insect bites. The flies are out in full force. Mosquitoes buzz by your ear while you sleep. In the fields, the sun bakes you. No sunscreen. No hat, unless you fashioned one from straw like a desperate scarecrow. And the worst part? You still have to work. Heatstroke is just called a taking a bad turn. So you're either shivering in your own hovel, wondering if your toes will make it to spring, or you're sweating through your only pair of socks while your thighs chafe into oblivion. And the one thing that never changes, your clothes still itch. Your food is still terrible. And your next job is still waiting. Welcome to climate control, medieval style. There is none. Feeling thirsty? Need to freshen up? Want to splash water on your face? Too bad. In medieval times, water isn't your friend. It's trying to murder you quietly. Let's start with drinking. The nearby stream looks fresh, clear, bubbling. But spoiler alert, it's not. Upstream, someone just dumped a chamber pot, or a dead pig is decomposing in it. Parasites and bacteria wait every sip. That's why people drank beer. Yes, beer. Even children. Food. It was a small beer, weak in alcohol, but the brewing boiled the water, making it safer. Wine was an option if you were rich and unconcerned with functioning before noon. What about bathing? In theory, yes. In practice, absolutely not. People believed bathing opened your pores and let disease in. Washing yourself was considered medically risky. You were cleaner, apparently, if you never removed the protective layer of filth. Communal bathhouses did exist, but they quickly gained reputations for scandal. So the church shut many down. Even if you wanted to bathe, it was a production. Fetch water, boil it, fill a leaky wooden tub, and rainwater collected in barrels where birds poop and insects breed. So whether it's for drinking, washing, or crops, water in the Middle Ages is a gamble. One wrong gulp, and your final days are spent sweating in a straw bed, clutching your stomach. Next time you sip tap water, raise a glass to your ancestors. They didn't have the luxury of hydration without hazard, so you drank the bad water. Or maybe you stubbed your toe. Either way, you're sick. You need a doctor. Too bad. You live in the Middle Ages, where medicine is really just polite torture with a theology degree. Let's start with the diagnosis. Everything wrong with you, cough, rash, broken bone, is caused by your humours being out of balance. Before humours, blood, phlegm, yellow bile, black bile. Got a fever? Too much blood? The answer, bloodletting. Let's drain your life force into a bowl using a dull blade or a hungry leech. And yes, barbers often did it. Feeling sad or anxious? That's an excess of black bile. The cure, laxatives. Maybe a warm herbal purge. Now, if you break a bone or get a nasty wound, you're in real trouble. There's no anaesthesia unless you count passing out from pain. Surgery is done with knives that haven't been cleaned since the Crusades. Antibiotics are centuries away. Germ theory isn't invented yet. They think disease comes from bad air or God being annoyed with your sins. If your condition worsens, you'll be treated with more leeches, possibly some crushed beetles, and a priest giving last rites, just in case. They're preparing for the cure known as death. If by some miracle you recover, everyone assumes God took pity. The doctor takes credit, and the leech gets promoted. So yes, in the Middle Ages, medicine is less about healing and more about surviving the cure. After a long day of labour, lice and leeches, it's finally time to eat. You shuffle back to your hovel, stomach growling, ready for the one joy left in life, a warm meal. Bad news, your meal is probably trying to kill you. Let's begin with the basics. Food preservation doesn't really exist. No fridge, no freezer, just salt, smoke, or hope. Your meat, if you're lucky enough to have any, has been hanging for days. Covered in flies, marinated in questionable brine, possibly shared with a rat or two. Bread is the cornerstone. But even that isn't safe. In bad harvest years, desperate peasants bulk it up with bark, sawdust, or even clay. And if it's rye season, there's a bonus. Ugh, a fungus that causes convulsions, hallucinations, and sometimes death. It's like eating bread laced with LSD and tetanus. Vegetables. Vegetables. Only if in season. Turnips. So many turnips. Fruit might be available in the fall, but it rots quickly. Dairy is another gamble. Fresh milk spoils in hours. And let's talk seasoning. Spices like pepper or cinnamon, worth more than gold. For the average peasant, flavour comes from onions, precious salt, and pain. But food isn't just a health hazard. It's political. Game animals belong to the Lord. Get caught poaching a rabbit, and you could be fined, imprisoned, or executed. That's right, your dinner could get you hanged. So as you sit down to your grey stew by flickering firelight, remember, every bite is a risk, but you eat anyway, because in the Middle Ages, food doesn't nourish. It tests you. It's evening now. You've worked, suffered, and barely digested your suspicious stew. You might think the day is winding down. Don't get too relaxed, because God is watching. So is the priest. And so is your neighbour Agnes, who will absolutely report you if you miss Mass. In medieval Europe, religion isn't just part of life, it is life. The church controls your calendar, your laws, your education, your birth, marriage, death, everything. Think of it as your spiritual landlord. And you're always behind on rent. Every day is structured around prayer bells. Forget to bow. Sin. Eat meat on a Friday. Sin. Think about your neighbour's wife. Double sin. And hell is very real. Vividly real. Rivers of fire. Lakes of boiling blood. Eternal waste. You can't read the Bible yourself. It's in Latin. You rely on the church to interpret everything. If the priest says your crop failure is because you didn't pray hard enough, time to kneel harder. Tithes, a tenth of everything you own, are mandatory. Give wheat, give eggs, give what you have. If you have nothing, you're spiritually bankrupt. Holidays are holy days, dozens of them. They're not for fun, they're for mass, fasting, confession. Questioning the church is dangerous. Heretics are burned. Shoe witches are drowned. Skeptics are reformed. So you go through the motions. You chant, you bow, you pray that your soul might land in paradise, assuming the priest likes you. Because in the Middle Ages, God may be merciful, but the church, not so much. If you thought being a medieval peasant was rough, try doing it as a woman. All the filth, famine and fear, plus childbirth, subservience and social invisibility. In the Middle Ages, being a woman is like being on hard mode with no health potions and no restart button. From birth, a girl's path is locked in. Marry young, bear children, serve your husband, die tired. Education. Not likely. Unless you're noble and sent to a convent, your intellectual development stops when you learn to churn butter. Marriage happens early, really early. Betrothed at 12, pregnant by 14 isn't weird. It's not about love, it's about land, livestock, alliances. Your opinion is not required. Once married, you're basically your husband's property. Your job? Produce heirs, feed everyone, keep the house running, and not complain. Complaining might get you branded a nag. Or worse, a witch, a label that comes with drowning or burning. Childbirth is a death lottery. No prenatal care, no sterile tools, no pain relief. Minor complications can mean death for mother, child, or both. After the baby, your work increases. A screaming infant in a lice-ridden hut, and you're expected to nurse, cook, clean, and still help in the fields. If you're unmarried, you're suspicious. If widowed, vulnerable. If outspoken, dangerous. Women who didn't conform were often accused of witchcraft. Even in the church, your role is limited. Nuns lived under strict rules. No speaking without permission. Your spiritual worth always ranked below men. Even nobles lived in drafty stone refrigerators filled with fleas and political marriages. The simpler times weren't simple. They were relentless. Everything took longer. Everything hurt more. Life was survival, not leisure. And if you found a quiet moment to dream of something better, there wasn't much you could do. No upward mobility, no modern medicine. You lived, suffered, worked, and died within a few miles of where you were born. But here's the wildest part. Through all of this, people still laughed, sang songs, told stories, fell in love, found meaning. Not because life was easy, but because humans are stubborn like that. Even in the darkest chapters, they made space for light. So tonight, when you slip into your clean bed, with indoor plumbing, antibiotics, and central heating, maybe say a quiet thank you. Or say thank you to the modern world, and to your ancestors who fought rats, famine, and feudalism so you wouldn't have to.